So remember, if you would prefer not to be recorded, just let me know and I can pause it. So I would like to make a couple announcements. Ed has put in the chat one of the things I was going to announce, and that is that the genre series with romantic stories is on Wednesday, February 17 at 7 o'clock. And if you want information for that and other events, go to the SAC website. For example, I'm going to share my screen right now, and we can look at something that is being announced on the SAC website, and that is a Stories in Living Color. So that's Tuesday, February 23rd at 6 p.m. And here are the tellers that are featured. Some of you may know Elizabeth Vanderkamp, Ruby Carol Simpkins, Rupa Mohan. I happen to know she's a teller out at the San Francisco Asian Art Museum, and Karen Amano. And the premise behind this is that people of different races and ethnicities are paired together, and they tell stories from their lives, but they work together in presenting this pair of stories. And so they share their experience getting to know one another as well. And the idea is to kind of spread understanding of each other and do that through storytelling, something that we all believe in. I think that Ed has an announcement. If I haven't already stolen his thunder, Ed, do you want to add to the announcement you put in the chat?
Yes, so that is the genre storytelling series, and any swap group in California can nominate a storyteller to tell at these events, and we use 7 tellers. We get donations and then we give them to the tellers. We split it up. Last month, everyone got $58. Some people donated it back to SAC, but you can do whatever you want. And but you have to be a member of SAC to be able to be nominated. So that's the key in there. Mm-hmm. And so the ones coming up, I'm just going to quickly say them. In March, it's Myths and Fables. Yeah. April is historical. May is legends. Let's see. June is fantasy fairy tales. July is humorous laughing stories, and then we start over again with personal stories in August. So you can nominate someone for any of these in the future. So like if one of you is a storyteller and you know your people want to nominate you, you can apply well in advance to get your name on the list.
That's neat. And so maybe from our swap, I would imagine you could let Katie or Meg know that you would be interested in participating in one of Ed's events, and they would contact Ed directly. Does that sound right, Ed?
Yes, and I will be sending a flyer, another flyer announcement of the genre series, and Meg will get it, and a few of you, the rest of you, and then you can just, if you would, send it out to your membership.
Yeah.
And if you're a member of SAC, you'll get all those announcements anyway.
Which is a reason that you would want to join SAC. I think the membership is $30 a month.
A year.
And, or sorry, a year, excuse me. And that includes access to the workshops that we normally have in the winter or late fall. You would be admitted to those for free, and you have access to all kinds of announcements and things like that. So $30 a year is a standard membership.
Great. And if I might add, as a storyteller, you want to support organizations who support storytellers, and that's what SAC is. Yeah. So we all want to be part of SAC for that reason alone, if not all these other kudo reasons, you know.
Yeah. Thanks, Elaine.
You can also look for the Stories of Living Color. You can put your name on a list if you think you have a story that fits that category, and try to find a partner, and you work with a coach for a month. It's an unbelievable coach if you really want to learn about storytelling. So that's a lot of benefits.
Great. Thanks, Ed. Good. So the format for tonight, we're going to start out with some stories. And around midway through, we'll probably break and have a bathroom break and do our virtual circle. We normally would stand in a circle, introduce ourselves, and then say one or two lines in response to a prompt for the evening. I won't tell you what the prompt is, but there is one. So we have that to look forward to. And then we will finish the night with some more stories. If you are interested in telling a story, you can shout out right now and Katie will write your name down, or at any time, put your name in the chat. If you look on the bottom, there is a bar. And the two important buttons on the bottom bar are participants and chat. And you want those open. You should have a bar on the right that appears when you click on those, and you can see everybody who is in the Zoom room. And below that, you will see an ongoing chat. For example, right now, I am chatting to everyone. Hello and welcome. So you should see that appearing in the chat now if you have your chat open.
Right.
And it should be on the right side below the participants if you have your participants open. So if you're interested in telling a story or you want to make a comment about a story, it's kind of fun to have this ongoing chat. And if you're a storyteller, sometimes it's distracting. So you might want to turn your chat off while you're telling the story. That's up to you. But some storytellers like to see what is happening in the chat, and they even kind of respond to it. I guess, you know, that's the closest thing we have in this Zoom world to, you know, picking up the energy of your audience or really reading how they're interpreting your story is through that chat. So I will be introducing each storyteller. I'll probably be asking Katie for the name of the next storyteller. And what I will do is spotlight you while you are telling the story. So it will look like this while you're telling the story. And once you are finished, I will remove the spotlight and we will move on to our next teller. So we're not going to be as strict as we normally are about time, but do try to keep it between 5 or 7 minutes. I know Ed has already made it known that he needs 8 minutes, which is going to be totally fine. So any other announcements?
Since you're sharing about different storytelling events, I had the privilege, the delight of hearing the Healing Story Alliance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They're meeting on Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month, I believe.
I saw you there. Yeah.
Right, that's right. The stories on kindness were really heartening, especially in these days.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. When is their next event?
I think it's next first Wednesday.
First Wednesday. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
I have one more announcement as far as SAC. You can go to the story swap tab and click on that, and there's story swaps all over California, all kinds of nights, and you can request to be a storyteller, practice a story, or just go and listen. They're all at different times.
So if we take a look at what Ed's talking about, the story swaps are right here. And look at them all, East Bay, online, and you can contact all of these people. All the times are there, and since everything is virtual, it's pretty easy to attend. You could probably find something to do every day or maybe even twice a day. You can be on Zoom as much as me. I'm a high school teacher, so I'm on Zoom all day long. Okay, so I think without any further ado, it's time for our first storyteller. So Katie, do we have a
Yes,
storyteller?
Yes, we do. And you know what? I put a list up, but I sent it just to Lori And so I want to send it to everyone. How do I do that?
So
Gotcha.
in the message, you just need to switch who you're sending to.
Oh,
So you should see at the bottom, type message here, and you can click on the blue and it will give you a bunch of options.
oh, right, okay.
You click
So-
on everyone.
Yeah, oh, there we go. That's the top. Thanks, Ed. So we'll have Elaine kick us off.
Wonderful. Good. So Elaine, let me find you. And please welcome to the stage, do tell stage, the virtual one, Elaine Stanley. Elaine, I think you're muted.
It's not, there we go. Okay, I think I'm almost virtually there. Am I supposed to see myself? Yeah. Okay, the story I'm telling is called Life. The snowshoe hare was young and strong and agile as he went bounding out across the snow, darting through the long shadows of late afternoon, bounding one moment, and in the next, all was changed. For this sudden turn of events was unfathomable, as the northern goshawk was so silent, swift, and hard when she hit her mark. There was no time to comprehend this new reality, for what time the poor snowshoe hare had left in this world could be measured in heartbeats, and the volume of blood that pulsed his life through the hawk's talons and into the snow. But if he could, oh, if he could, he would have seen a large female goshawk in her 5th season, with bright yellow legs and a silvery gray breast etched with lines so fine they mesmerized. Her wings splayed to both sides for balance, and the longest pale tapered feathers trailed off into the snow like the runners of a sled. Her tail was long and broad and had barring marks, which tell us she was in the accipiter family. Her slate-colored back marked her as an adult. She had a large, formidable gray beak that darkened at the tip and hooked efficiently. Her head was large and broad, and across her face she wore a charcoal mask, and above that mask a pale eyebrow stripe. But her most arresting feature were those large red eyes, glowing with a ferocious intensity. And deep, deep beyond measure below, for those were the portals through which the snowshoe hare saw his destiny. And the rest of the story was written in the snow. For the average northern goshawk weighs about 1,100 grams. That's almost 2.5 pounds. They eat 15% of their body weight a day, every day. And in winter, those food demands are even greater. Oh yes, this northern goshawk was very familiar with death. For every day that she lives, something else dies. And so it is that even in death, life goes on. Thank you.
Wow, Elaine, that was so beautiful. What a great combination of really precise description and dramatic impressions too.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I can actually read in the chat now. I'm sure we're in for a wonderful treat. I'm always impressed, and I enjoy very much every time this teller takes the stage. So please welcome, and I have to find her, Lori to the stage. There she is. And so I'm going to bring you up. Welcome, Lori. And I will remove myself.
1 week after I graduated from college, I drove 2,000 miles west and moved to San Jose, California. Well, there was a lot of things to get used to that were new to me. The milder climate, the time change, and the fact that people would come up to me all the time and say, "You're from Michigan or Minnesota, aren't you?" I'm like, "Who, me? I don't have an accent. And besides, I'm from Wisconsin." For Pete's sake. Well, into the same large apartment complex came a lot of other college grads. A lot of them came out to work in Silicon Valley and high tech. And almost everybody that I met was from the Midwest as well. So we made a very fast friendship of family with each other. And when we would get together for holidays and stuff, we would all get together and everybody would bring their own potluck dish. And it was a really fun group. So one rainy February Saturday afternoon, my boyfriend said, "You know, we got invited out to eat with a couple I know from work." And I said, "You know, I think I'll stay home. It's kind of cold and rainy." And then he said, "Well, it's El Torito. It's a Mexican chain restaurant." I said, "Oh, now I'll really stay home because, you know, in the Midwest, you know, we eat white bread and Jell-O and you know, bland, right? Pretty basic stuff, not spicy." And I knew that I wasn't the spicy kind of, I had mild-mannered Midwestern digestion. So I said, "You know, I'm going to stay put." He goes, "Come on, it's good to try new things. And, you know, you won't have to cook and it's their treat." I'm like, "Okay." So he kind of drags me to this restaurant. And as soon as we walked in the door, I was like, oh my gosh, it was packed. It was really noisy from the people and the bustling waiters. And there was mariachi music blasting through the sound system. And it was really brightly lit. And you smelled the spicy food and the fried corn chips. And I was like, whoa. So as we're walking towards the table where I'm presuming we're sitting with two other people, all of a sudden I hear this very loud chorus of "surprise." And I looked over where I heard the surprise from, thinking, oh, somebody else is having some kind of event. And I looked and I looked again. And I thought, I know all those people. One at a time, I recognized the faces at the table. And then I looked at my boyfriend. I go, oh, look at that. They're here too. I wonder what they're celebrating. And I thought we were going to keep going. And he goes, no, it's a surprise for you. I'm like, well, what for? It's your birthday. Well, not for nearly 2 weeks. Well, they planned it because they wanted to make sure you were surprised. And I said, well, it worked. So I'm still kind of overwhelmed and I kind of sink to my feet and they're all watching me because it's like, it's your party, you know, and it's like that they're 2 drinks in, you know, so they're already the life of the party and I'm still kind of stunned. And I even asked my boyfriend, well, what about your friends? You know, it's like, I couldn't quite get it with the program. So immediately a waiter comes by and plops a huge sombrero on my head. I'm like, great, I'm already out of my element. And now I look dorky, you know, and so more people are going to watch me. And then people were pushing things towards me on the table. So this huge goblet, like 20-ounce goblet of a margarita appeared. And it was stuff on the rim. Of course, this was my first margarita. And I was a pretty light drinker. You know, I'd have 1 beer in college and then I'd wobble home and go to sleep. So I wasn't really big friends with alcohol. So I thought, well, I better taste it. They're waiting for me to do something. And I thought, is that sugar or salt on the rim? I don't know. So I take it, oh my gosh. So zing, 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 you know, lime. And that was salt, by the way. And it was cool, icy cold. I thought, oh my gosh, I better have something to eat if they're going to make me drink. So I reached for a tortilla chip because there's like never ending baskets of these chips on the table. And I thought, I know better than to eat red salsa. That's too hot for me. But, you know, not long before this, I had met my first avocado. And I thought, you know, that's pretty good. It's pretty mild. I think I'll go for the guacamole. Well, I take a little bit on a chip and oh my goodness, there was jalapeno in that stuff. And you know, the operative word there is pain, jalapeno. It was like, oh my gosh, so glug, glug, more of the alcohol, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm just trying to get my bearings. And I said, okay, I'm going to order something and I'm looking at this menu and it's totally, I don't know what any of this is. It's like chimichanga, chalupa, all these words, churro. I was like, this was like Latin music for dancing to. I don't know what the food is. Is there anything mild? It was just really confusing. And so I did my best, but by the time we left, I was pretty wiped out. You know, this is El Torito, the bull. I felt trampled. You know, my ears were ringing, my tongue was burning, I was a little tipsy and I still even hadn't eaten that much. And, you know, everything was just kind of not right. And so on the way home, my boyfriend kind of chides me like, you know, they went to a lot of work to plan this for 10 of us to have the same night open and they really wanted to surprise you and you hardly touched your dinner. And I said, you know, it's my party. I'll cry if I want to, sigh if I want to, die I thought I might do. You would cry too if it happened to you.
Oh, Lori. Oh my gosh. Your
That is
mild-mannered
that's a sadly true story.
mild-mannered Midwestern digestion. And, zing, zing, zing. That's
Yeah.
the pain in jalapeno. Every day I feel could be an adventure with you, Lori. I really feel that. Well, thank you for that. That was really fun.
Thanks.
So next in our list, we have Jerry. Please welcome to the Do Tell stage, Jerry. I'm looking, I see you, and here Jerry comes. Great. Welcome.
There I am.
Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. I am going to tell you about the California Welcoming Committee. This happened about 30 some odd years ago. I was living in Southern California and I had moved in with my boyfriend at the time and my brother who lived in Delaware. Never met my boyfriend who ended up to be my husband by the name of Clyde. And I wanted to visit my brother. So my brother came out to visit California. He'd never been this far west. He wanted to see California. He wanted to dip his toes in the ocean. And he had his son, who was 3 at the time, and his wife came along. So the 3 of them flew out here from Delaware. And we meet him at the airport and we pick him up, you know, and it happened to be I was going to be working the next day. And then I decided I was going to take a couple of days off after that. But I did have to work the next day. So my brother and my sister-in-law started settling in, and the 3-year-old is still, you know, agitated and running around from being cooped up on the plane all day. And then in the car coming back from the airport. So I said to my brother, I said, there's a park about a block away. Do you want me to leave you the keys to the car, you know, and the house and everything? That way you can go to the park. And he said, yeah, that would be nice. We can take, you know, Louis to the park. That'd be great. Now you have to understand what my brother looked like at the time to really understand this welcoming committee. My brother is short like me. He's about 5'3", 5'4". He had long hair. He had a full beard. And he wore jeans most of the time, baseball hat, and just a regular shirt. So I go to work the next day at the hospital, and he decides he's going to go to the park. So the 3 of them, you know, they decide to walk to the park, and they've got the keys to the house. And meanwhile, they have just met my soon-to-be husband. You know, they really didn't know him that well, and they go to the park. So they play a while, and of course, the 3-year-old gets a little tired, and they're going to come home. So my sister-in-law walks in the house, the little baby walks in the house, and my brother walks in the house. And the next thing they know is there is banging at the door. My brother opens the door, a policeman grabs him, throws him on the ground, handcuffs him. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law is going crazy. There's cops coming in through the back door of the house. And he's saying, but my sister lives here. right? Right, yeah, she lives here. What are you stealing? You know, so he finally talked them into, look, her number where she works is on the dresser over there. Call her, right? So meanwhile, he's on the ground in handcuffs. They call me, and it happened to be my lunchtime, and I was off the floor. They can't find me because I decided to go for a little walk for my lunchtime. Meanwhile, he's on the ground in handcuffs. So I finally get back, and my coworker says to me, "You've got to call home. The cops called me. I don't know what's going on." And I'm thinking maybe something happened to my nephew. You know, what happened? So I finally called there, and a sergeant answers the phone. Well, of course, they wanted to know who owned the house, and that was my fiance at the time, which my brother didn't know his last name. So it just created all of these issues with the cop. So I finally talked the cop down where that was my brother. He was allowed there. He had the key and everything. So that's the California Welcoming Committee. And I hope they never get to your house.
Oh, dear.
The reason they were called in the first place was my neighbor, being ever so vigilant, saw my brother walk into the house, did not see my sister-in-law, did not see the baby. Just saw my brother walking in the house with long hair, full beard, jeans, baseball hat. So that's it, guys.
Sounds like you have too good a neighbors.
Yeah.
Too vigilant. Oh, thank you very much. That was delightful, and
You're welcome.
probably less so for your brother.
Believe me, it's 30 years ago or 35 years ago, and my sister-in-law has not forgotten it yet.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Oh. So moving right along, I'm sure when this teller takes the stage, you really never know what she's going to do. She can do personal stories, historical stories, legends, fairy tales, folk tales. So please welcome to the stage, Sharon. And I just need to find you in scrolling through here. Sorry. There you were. I just passed you. So, welcome, Sharon.
Okay. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah.
All right. In 1952, I was 9 years old, and I was what we called in those days a scaredy cat. And I had reasons. I knew that if I put my feet all the way down to the bottom of the bed, there would be chickens or snakes or some dreadful creatures down there. So I slept in a ball all the time. I didn't worry about what was in the closet or what was under the bed, because I knew that if I closed my eyes and pretended I was asleep, the bad guys who were ravaging our house wouldn't want to kill me because I hadn't seen them and couldn't identify them. So that gives you an idea of the mindset that I had on the day that my parents sent me on the Saturday afternoon to the matinee to see House of Wax with Vincent Price. Now, why normally sensible parents would send a 9-year-old to see a horror movie was kind of a puzzle. But the fact that I had a new brother about 9 months later cleared it up a little bit. But if they were hoping for privacy, it had the opposite effect. I was sleeping in their bed night after the experience. And then things got worse. A carnival came to our town, and they had a parade down the street with wagons and music to get us all excited to go. And the first wagon that went by had a painting on the side, and it scared me. There was a lone cavalryman in the middle of a vast desert. He was on his stomach on the ground behind his dead horse, holding up his rifle His only defense against this enormous horde of feathered and painted Indians that were coming over the hill to annihilate him. Now, I knew about Indians. I knew about fire arrows. I knew they could shoot a fire arrow onto the roof of your house, and you wouldn't find out about it until it was too late, till you were suffocated by smoke or burned to a crisp. So I went outside more than once to check the roof, just to make sure that no Indians with fire arrows had come by our territory. The second wagon in that carnival parade had something even scarier, but I had to pay extra for that. Now, I only had 50 cents a week for my allowance, and this ticket was going to cost me 25 cents. And I debated back and forth before I decided to make the investment, give the man my ticket, and climb the stairs to see a real live gorilla. As the door opened and I walked in, there he was in a cage. I was face to face with the most dangerous creature on earth. And I knew that if he chose, he could tear those bars apart and pound on his chest and come running down and tear me to pieces. Oh, it was a hard summer. Well, 10 years later, I was in college and hanging around with my friends on Saturday night. And we decided to watch an old John Wayne movie. And John Wayne was a cavalryman himself, with a smashed in hat on the front and the designs and the buttons down. And in this case, several of the people in the room with me were Navajo. And when those Indians came over the hill, they all cheered for them. And that was honestly the first time it had ever occurred to me that maybe we didn't all agree about who were the bad guys and who were the good guys. And then a couple of years ago, my friend told me that she had just got back from a wonderful trip. She had gone to Rwanda. She paid $25,000 to travel to Rwanda and embed herself for an hour with a troop of mountain gorillas. She had all kinds of training for that. They told her, don't make eye contact, don't make any sudden or aggressive moves, behave in a submissive manner. And so she sat quietly as a silverback gorilla came up behind her and began going through her hair, grooming her, looking for something good to eat. And she said that was the most exciting moment of her whole life. And I thought back on my 9-year-old self and I thought, you know, girl, you were misinformed. You were misinformed about those Native American folks. You were misinformed about the gorillas. But the other night, that Vincent Price movie went by on the movie channel, and I thought, I'm grown up now, I could watch that. And I'm here to tell you, I wasn't wrong about that. That is one scary movie.
Oh, Sharon, that was wonderful. I remember that movie when I was little too. I think the scariest thing you mentioned was the chickens in the foot of your bed. That would be, I've never thought of that one before. But I love the message in your story too. Thank you for that. Thank you. And so I think before our break, we probably have time for one more teller at least. So Ed is going to tell a little bit longer story. I think it's about 8 minutes. So please welcome the host to the Davis swap, you probably have a different name than that, though, don't you? Are you the Oddfellows swap, or I'm sure Ed will what their name is. But please welcome to the stage Ed Lewis.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, it's the Sacramento Storytellers Guild, but I put on some events through the Oddfellows Lodge because I'm a member and we have a free stage and everything to put on our events. So I put on a couple of events per year and get some really good storytellers like Brandon. The hags are coming. The hags are coming. They will be here soon. That was a typical Halloween day on Lopez Island for the Gang of Three in 1955. Now, Lopez Island is part of the San Juan Island chain in Washington State, just below the Canadian border at Vancouver Island. We would meet every morning and go down to McKay Harbor, get in our rowboat, and row out to check our crab pots. Ralph the Runt, who was only 9 and the smallest guy, he would row in the harbor where it was nice and calm. And then 11-year-old Mike, the powerhouse, would take over the oars and we hit the open water and the waves are just crashing over. And me, Eddie Spaghetti, the meatballs are ready, was up in the bow, just ready to pull up those crab pots because I had the best balance on the entire island. So we got to our first crab pot and I pulled that pot up and we had 5 good-sized Dungeness crabs. Our other 4 pots held 10 more. So we had 15 good-sized Dungeness crabs, which we took back to my mother, and she made her famous crab dip, which of course we ate with Lay's potato chips. She had also put out crab for us and it'd be a feast at lunchtime. Well, after lunch, we went down to Agate Bay, where we had our fort. It was all built except for the roof. So we spent the rest of the afternoon putting on a roof because we knew that evening around midnight, our school teacher, who was a hag, or so we thought, would be coming out and she just might visit us. So we put on that roof, we went up into the forest, got some pine needles and ferns and laid them out and put our sleeping bags down for beds. We took some planks and we built some small tables because, and this is good news, good information for all of you. You have to take a pocket knife and leave it open right next to your bed and put it on a table. In case the hag does get in and comes for you, you can slash out. And then if you cut the hag anywhere, you'll see the hag the next day and you'll know who the hag really is. The other thing you have to do is take your best Sunday shoes and put them at the foot of your bed. Then you have to get those paper matchbooks and you tear out 4 matches. You twist them and you put them in your hair. Then you take a Bible, you open it up and you put it right at the door to your room or wherever you happen to be staying. Because if a hag does try to come into your place, she will have to stop and read that Bible. And she'll never finish it before the sunlight comes up. So then she's got to get back. So you can be safe that way. So we were all prepared. We went out trick-or-treating, had a nice stash. We came down, built a campfire, and told stories, good old spooky, scary stories that most of our older brothers had taught us. And we opened our baseball cards. And that day we had 9 packs of Topps baseball cards. And I got a 1954 Mickey Mantle. And 22 years later, I added that. My mother told me about my collection, and I sold my collection of baseball cards in San Francisco for $3,000. It was a lot of money for a young person. Well, at 11 o'clock sharp, we went up to the grave site. Now, the graveyard has graves on it that go back to 1820. It's really a unique place out in the middle of nowhere, big trees. And Mike and Ralph the Runt went up into the caretaker's house. And I was the fastest runner. I ran as quickly as I could to our school teacher's house with a bag of salt. I got under her willow tree and I just waited. And at 11:45, she came out. And she peeled her skin from the top of her head all the way down to her toes, took it off and laid it over the railing. And then creaking out her gate with slime and guts and all kinds of interesting fluids, she walked past me. And as soon as she was over the hill, I ran up to the porch and I smeared salt all the way through the entire skin. Then I ran back to Ralph and Mike just in time to see her coming. And as she was coming, she was singing that song. The hags are coming, the hags are coming. We will be here soon. She came in through the gate and she went up to the first gravesite that didn't have anything on it. Because another way to keep a hag away is to put anything on the gravesite, flowers, momentums, anything that is personal for you and your lost one. So you can't go into those. So she found one and stood on that. And as she sang that song, she sank down into the earth where she looked for lost souls and any trinkets that she could pull out. She did that for a couple hours. We watched her come out, come over to another grave and go down. Well, it was about 3 in the morning now. And she came up and headed back to her house. Ran as quickly as we could. We got under that willow tree. She came up to her porch. She took her skin and she put it on. And I don't know if any of you are gardeners, but my father taught me this when I was a kid. You take salt and you pour it on a slug, that slimy stuff, and they just dry up and die. Well, that's what happened to her. She just withered into ashes, and there was nothing left of her. Well, the next day we went to school. There was no school teacher. So we knew exactly what had happened. There are many legends. If you go up there, you'll hear about the school teacher in 1955 who got lost. Maybe she fell over a cliff and fell down to the orcas and they ate her and took her out to sea. There's many legends around it. But the Gang of Three, we know that to this day. And now you know the true story of the hag. And if you can, please sing along with me. The hags are coming, the hags are coming. They will be here soon.
Oh my God. I mean, hags are one thing, but Ralph the Runt and Eddie Spaghetti might be the ones you got to worry about. You got to put a bowl of crab dip next to your bed. Oh, Ed, that was fun. Thank you so much. It kind of reminds, I'm sure it reminds many of us of our childhoods. Thank you for that, Ed.
You're welcome.
So I think it'd be a good time to take a 5-minute bathroom break. And when we come back, we will have our virtual circle. We'll go through, there will be a prompt. We can introduce each other or introduce ourselves to each other. And we have 2 more storytellers on the list, but I think I saw somebody else was interested in the chat as well. So if you are interested in telling a story, we'll probably have time, and put it in the chat. Say, I am interested, and make sure it goes to everyone. So it is almost 7:50 now. At 7:55, I will start our circle. So you're welcome to turn your videos off, take a short break, get a drink. I will pause the recording and resume it when we come back. See you in 5. So that's back on. And here we are in February. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. It made me think, of course, of love and romance, but the weather is also making me think of spring. And I'm not the only one. Katie and Meg both suggested that we share with one another tonight the signs of spring that we notice first, the first signs of spring. And when you share, be sure to say your name and what city you live in, and maybe how you heard the Do Tell swap. And then very briefly, share your favorite sign of spring or the early sign of spring that you look for. And for me, I'm Brandon. I'm a high school teacher here in Santa Rosa. And for me, spring means the trout are spawning in the rivers. And so I'm actually, I've been poking around the Russian River looking for the steelhead, but I'm going to try to go tomorrow afternoon to another river, the Yuba, 2 hours away. And Puta Creek is another place I go. And I can tell when the trout are spawning. It's a really beautiful thing. I don't normally watch animals spawning, but in this case, there's something very beautiful about it. So I am going to pass it over to Meg Brown, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Meg Brown. I live in Forestville, and I've been coming to the swap for a long time. Started when Mr. Foster had his swap there at his garage. So it's been a while, and I love just listening to the stories and occasionally telling. You know, I always know it's spring when I go down into my backyard and I smell this particularly beautiful, sweet, sweet aroma that is coming from the plum blossoms on the trees down there. And it has happened so many times that I know now when I smell it, I think, okay, now it's spring. So that's really what I look for. And it's always a wonderful surprise because it doesn't happen at the same time all the time. And it's always just catches me unawares. And that's what spring, that's the sign of spring for me.
Wonderful, Meg. Thank you. And next we have Ed.
Okay, my name is Ed Lewis. I live in Davis, California, and through SAC, I know about all the swap groups, and I've went to the Do Tell Story swap group when it was at Oakmont, and my parents used to live there, and my stepmom lived there for a long time. For me, spring, I know spring because it's more of the calendar for me, because I love river rafting. And that's when you can start making all your appointments to go on river raft trips, like up in the Snake River in Idaho that I'm going to go to in the summer and things like that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ed. And next we have Elaine.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I'm Elaine Stanley, and I live in Santa Rosa. In fact, I live at Oakmont Gardens. And my house is up for sale, but in the front yard, there is a huge I think it's called a tulip tree, but it's there's another name for that flower. And right now it's starting with all the buds. It's got lots of buds and a few flowers starting to open. And that's when I know it's spring. I lived in the house for 10 years. And as they become full blossoms and beautiful, that's when the rock rose in the backyard starts blooming and goes through the first part of summer. So I like getting out around the house and seeing what's starting to bloom. And throughout the whole year, something is blooming in that yard.
Oh,
So it's really wonderful. It was a wonderful place to live.
thank you, Elaine. And next on the list, we have Katie.
Hi, Katie Mangan. I live in Santa Rosa. And for me, the first sign of spring is just see so many different birds, a lot of birds in a frenzy. And you also hear the hawks beginning to call out their territories.
Yeah.
So that's spring for me. Thank you.
Wow, Katie, yeah, there's a hawk right near my house doing just that.
Cool.
Yeah. Next, we have John. Hi, John.
Kristen and Cher is here too. Where's your foot, Cher?
Oh,
Sure.
sorry.
So yeah, we live in Bodega, and let's see, we've been noticing the what's that tree?
The tulip tree.
Tulip tree. We saw a tulip tree yesterday when we were driving around, and Brandon, we used to live up near the Yuba River,
Oh,
and up there, you know, we get a little bit of snow, but the crocuses would start coming up, and that's when we knew it was spring up there. And here it's just, well, it all just starts going wild. So
yeah, that sounds beautiful. Thanks, John. Next, we have Sharon.
My first sign of spring is not that cheery. I usually know it's spring because I start to realize from the change in the light that the windows are dirty and it's time to wash all the windows.
Oh, Sharon. That's great. And next we have Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth, and I was part of the Bay Area Storytelling Festival for a long time. In the background a little bit, my storytelling is pretty much been with young children, but I will be brave next month. And for me, the sign of spring here, well, I have an acacia tree, which I asked my neighbors if they were allergic 50 years ago, and the tree is now huge. And it is amazingly bright yellow. So I certainly know it's spring. And also the ground changes from the brown to the very beautiful spring grass green. So
Oh,
just looking at the earth for me.
thank you,
Great
Beth.
stories tonight. Thank you all.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Let's see. Next we have Carol. So I'm not seeing how to spotlight Carol. Interesting. Okay. Carol, I'm coming for you. There we go.
Okay, unmuted. I don't know how to get my picture there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay. Now I don't know what to say. Oh, I live outside of the Rincon Valley, kind of halfway between Calistoga Road and Oakmont.
Good.
And Lori told me about the storytelling, so I'm really glad that she did. And I've gone to several storytelling events, the main one being the Nevada storytelling up in the North Columbia.
The Sierra Storytelling Fest.
The Sierra
The
Storytelling.
Storytelling Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I like best about spring. I'm just glad it comes. I get tired of winter. So I guess that's what I like best about spring. I don't know how, do you want to show your video? Or was that just the
Down
way-
in the bottom
Yeah.
on the left, there's a video icon. And if you click on that, that will show, there you
Oh,
are.
there I am. In
Wonderful.
my bathrobe.
That's
Yay. About videos.
beautiful.
About being at home. Ta-da.
Nice to see you.
Anyway, that's me. I'm gone. Bye.
Thank you. And next, maybe in her pajamas, is Claire. Hi,
That's
Claire.
not my pajamas.
It's not your pajamas. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I hadn't seen.
My name is Claire Castell, and I live in Oakland. I go to the Delta Word Weavers and to the Orinda group, and I'm going to 6 Feet Apart Productions,
Hey.
and I'm, so I'm getting around, and I love it now that I don't have to drive to any of these things. So I love Zoom.
Good.
Well, last month in January, I have a big yard and I have 2 bird houses, and I saw the chickadee looking into one of the bird houses, and I thought, oh, he's going to go in there. And he did. And then I saw the titmouse go to the other birdhouse and check it out. And I thought, wow, January, it's kind of early. No, wait a minute. The birds got to make the chicks, and the chicks are going to be born in the spring. So it's probably time that they're getting at making the chicks part. So it was last month I realized, it's California and spring's coming. And then to really drive that message home, this week, I got a big bunch of bright yellow daffodils coming up in the front yard, just like 15 of them, not a lot. Boom, it was like one day they grew overnight. So
Oh, beautiful.
birds and flowers.
Well, thank you for that. And next we have Genevieve.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, stuff that has been mentioned. I love the crocus coming up, or the little white nasturtiums. And during COVID, last time when we first started in March or April, I decided to dig up all my bulbs and to take them out of the dirt and store them properly. And I never got around to figuring out how to store them properly. So they were in pots just by themselves. And I went out this morning and they're all blooming. They don't have any dirt. They're just going to town.
Oh.
But the thing is, I also noticed it's a lot of green coming from weeds, and you have to kind of figure out just when to pull them because they're too small to pull right now and they get big really fast. But my favorite is a memory of my husband, Don, what he used to call the twittery little birds.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And next we have, is it Debbie Downer? Deb?
Okay.
That's me. I am sitting in the campfire of my iPhone Do Tell Story Swap meeting. And for me, it's the shocking pink snowball camellia flowers that burst out of the tree outside the door off the porch.
Yeah.
And when we got locked down, I sat on that porch a lot about a year ago in March and April, and I watched while these blue jays kept busting into that camellia bush and out again, and in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And they had this roughly hewn kind of nest up there. And one little blue jay would stick its skinny little head up and look at you. After about a month, and I remember looking up right at it. And I would wash the dishes and look out the window at them. They kind of like knew I was okay, and they kind of like, we had a little agreement that we were friends, I guess, me and those blue jays. So I am watching them now, and they're back, and the camellias are bursting, and the blue jays are around. I don't know if they're going to nest again in that tree. I hope they do, though. Because I trimmed it back a little, and they're maybe not as comfortable. So I don't know. I'm just sort of hoping they still go for that tree. I'm so glad to see faces. Elaine, good to see you, and Katie and Brandon, and gosh, Ed was, wow, what a wild stories, and everybody, and see Elizabeth and Dolly, and I think Terry I know, and Lori, wonderful story, and just to see, you know, you take for granted, you know, people, you know, hey, we're alive and we're here. I'm just grateful, because if I don't hear from people, you know, you don't know, and so I'm just grateful for all of us that were here.
I'm
And
speaking for everyone when I say we're glad to see you too.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
thank you. Yeah, and it's a gift. we're all doing all right. Looking
you.
good.
And
Yeah.
next is Elizabeth. Ellie Shiva, right? You're muted, I think.
Can't hear you.
There we go. So yeah, my birth name is Elizabeth, and I call Ellie Sheva my linguistic roots, because it's the Hebrew name that Elizabeth comes from. So I like that. I'm having a great job working.
Could you stop moving? It's really harder to follow. I'm sorry. Could you stop moving, because I do lips reading.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a rocking chair, but I won't. I have a great job. One of the things which I do is I work with retired seniors with developmental disabilities. And I've been doing a Zoom with about half an hour of storytelling once a week with them, which is fun for them. And they are growing in numbers of people coming from our group to see and hear it. But my my thing of spring is, yeah, the blooming of the bulbs, especially daffodils, because when I was a kid, I loved them. Like, they look like little saucers and teacups. And I was walking, I live in a senior housing thing in Petaluma. And a few weeks ago, or a month or so, it's hard to tell time anymore. I was walking by a couple of the guys that live here, and they were planting something, and it was right where they plant the daffodils every year. So I say, oh, hi guys, how's your daffodils planting going? And they said, it's marijuana. I said, okay, I guess we better open a store, huh? So of course, I walked by it the other day, and it had this very strange looking stem with a yellow little thing, and it's starting to unravel into its little saucer. So that was my fun time watching the spring come in this year.
Spring in Sonoma County.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ellie Shiva.
You're welcome.
And next we have Evelyn. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi, I'm Evelyn. I live in Roanoke Park. I actually found out about the story swap from Lori. And since the pandemic, I've started bird watching. So today I was on a walk and I saw blackbirds doing something which I now know is trying to attract mates. So I thought, oh, springtime is here. That's it.
Yes.
Great.
And Jordy, could we have you turn your video on? Jordy?
Yeah. Actually, it's not just Jordy. It's Jordy, Akila, and Alicia.
Oh, wonderful. Hey, thank you. Nice to see you all. Welcome.
Yes. I'm here. Yeah. So what do you guys?
I think I'm Alicia Bonner, and I live in Roanoke Park, and I have been in part of, I guess, Story Swap since, the Pinnacles in it, and so it's been a while, and so I really enjoy it. And the other thing is, I like spring because it's just before summer, and I enjoy my summers. So, and especially when I used to teach. So, I look forward to summer every year. But right now, I'm just hoping that this pandemic is better by the summertime. So, but yeah, other than that, my favorite part is just remembering spring is just before summer.
Akila Bonner, also in Roanoke Park. And my favorite thing, I got involved due to this one who likes to tell stories.
Yeah.
And so she's like, you should come. And so I did. And my favorite thing about spring is all the animal babies, especially sheep and goats. And then especially now with YouTube, there's people who just live stream them. And so you're just like, oh, look at them have their fun and drink and all that stuff. That's my favorite sign of spring is all the new life. So.
I'm Jordy Jensky. I got into Story Swap because of these wonderful human beings. And I live in Guerneville, and my favorite spring indicator is when I get to stop watching the river level and I get to not worry that it's going to flood anymore, and summer's on its way. We can actually swim in the river again. So.
Well, thank you, all three of you. That was kind of a bonus to open one Zoom screen and get three people. That's so neat. Thank you, and good to see you all. Oh, and somebody else.
Yeah.
New puppy.
That's Allie.
Oh. So here is Nicolene. Hi, Nicolene.
Hello. So, my name is Nicolene Le Seigneur. I live in Santa Rosa. I have been coming to the Story Swap for maybe at least 6 years, I would think, yeah. I learned about it through the celebration that was at the Glazer Center. And my spring, I like spring. I was born in spring, but spring is my favorite season with blooming all over. And I have my living room window give on what we call a floodplain, but so I can see the leaf coming back on the trees, and also white flowers all over. Really.
Wonderful.
Plus the days get longer, so that's also nice.
Good. I think we're coming to the end. Let me see. Now, Terry, I believe you are next, right?
Yeah. Hi. Actually, my name is Vicky. I am
sorry.
I'm using my my wife's Zoom, and I tried to get my own Zoom going, and I spent an hour, and I see it still says Terry. So if you call me Terry, I'm good with that. I'm good. But anyway, I think my favorite, I live in Sebastopol. I think my favorite spring thing is yellow stuff, not only daffodils, but it's lemon season. And we have Meyer lemon trees, and I make lemon asparagus risotto and lemon cookies and lemon everything. I love Meyer lemons. And I also love when you drive by the vineyards and the vines are just dark brown, and there's the mustard going right between all the vineyard paths, and it's just so spectacular. There's a brief period where you just see these, it looks like corduroy yellow with black, and it's just a spectacular sight. And it lasts maybe 2 weeks in Sonoma County, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Vicky.
Yeah, one day it's going to say Vicky, not Terry, but I.
Well, I really enjoyed hearing all of these signs. I feel like, did we miss somebody?
We have 3 more. Is it Maxine there?
Oh, okay.
Maxine?
Maxine.
Maybe she's gone.
I don't see a Maxine.
How about Jerry? Have we had Jerry yet? Jerry? She's gone.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm sorry, Jerry.
And Lori.
You are. And
Wait till I get a hold of you.
Yeah. You have my
You're getting
permission
me.
to throttle my neck.
Hi, I'm Jerry Runs and I live in Santa Rosa. The way I found out about the story swap was through Lori. She came to one of my yard sales and she started talking to a friend of mine. So that's how I ended up here. And what I like about spring is this phenomenon that happens to me when spring starts. I start to taste ripe, juicy tomatoes. And I just can't wait for the soil to get warm enough I can plant my tomato bushes.
Yeah.
And that's spring to me.
Oh, that sounds nice. And Lori.
My name's Lori. I live in Santa Rosa. And for a long time, my first sign of spring was in a neighborhood where I used to live with flowering quince. It's not a real widespread plant, but it was the very first thing in the landscape that, you know, it's a big shrub that would, the pinkish coral color would just spring out. And it was definitely the sign of spring. But nowadays, I don't live near any of that. So I always think of February as yellow month because we get the acacia and the mustard and the daffodils. And I also start to sneeze. So that's my first sign of spring.
Oh, yeah. It's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Now, Katie, do you think we've hit everybody?
Yes.
Sometimes the order
Yeah.
changes, so I apologize.
No, you did a lovely job. Awesome.
So like I was going to say, it's so nice to just pause and notice the things around us. I think I would have just gone on with my life and it would be summer before I knew it. And I wouldn't even have noticed spring had come and gone. So I really appreciated that. Yellow, lots of yellow. You're right. Yeah. So this next teller, and please put your name in the chat if you would like to add. We have 2 more tellers signed up. And this next teller has opened a wonderful space for us in Rohnert Park. It is the brick and mortar home now for the Do Tell Story Swap when we meet in person. So please welcome to the stage, Evelyn. And I'm going to have to find you now. There you are. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi. So this is a story that may talk a little bit about the downside of being a storyteller, or maybe why a storyteller shouldn't go car shopping unsupervised. So the other night, Sonny comes home and he goes, "Oh, I see you bought the minivan you've been looking for." And I said, "Yes, I did." And then he starts to ask me all these questions, like these mechanical questions. Well, did you do this? Did you check the oil? Did you do, all these questions? And every one of them I go, no, no, no. And he goes, "Well, what did you do?" Well, this is what happened. He had gone for the day and I've been shopping, looking online for a minivan, and I found one that looked like a really good deal. And I thought, well, okay, I'll go check it out. Texted the woman. It turned out she was there. It would be a good time to go look for her. And other people were interested, so I should get there. So I go there and it turns out it's in Coffee Park. So I drive up and I get out and I make some kind of comment like, "Oh, wow, it looks like they're really building things back." And she goes, "Yes," she goes, "it was horrible." And she proceeds to tell me her escape from the fire story, which was quite harrowing. Then on top of it, she goes, "It gets even worse. 3 weeks before the fire, my husband died." So now I'm really feeling for this woman. And so then her college-age daughter comes out and we start hearing her story of what it's like to be doing college from home. And she's the reason that the car's for sale because she doesn't need it anymore since she's living back at home with her mom. So both these stories have really grabbed me and I really want to help these women out. And I did really like the way the van looked. And I drove it around the block and it seemed fine. So I go ahead, I give them the money, and then I come home and it said Sonny shows up And I realized that I know nothing about the van other than I like the way it looked, and the people who owned it have really touched my heart. So, so tomorrow we're actually going to take it to a mechanic and have it checked out, and I'm going to find out whether or not I got a good van along with some really good stories, or whether or not I should never go car shopping unsupervised. That's a sort.
My goodness.
Oh.
Buyer beware. Actually, I think you probably just shouldn't check it out. Just go with it.
I know.
I'm sure next month you're going to have a story to update us. Oh, Evelyn, thank you. That was really wonderful. And you know what? It's nice to just trust people too. There's good in that too. So we are down to our last teller. I didn't know Katie was working on a new story, and I'm really excited. So please welcome to the stage. Let me find Katie. Katie Mangan. And here she is.
I should have probably asked permission, but this is, I think, 9 minutes long. So it's called The Deep Woods. We've been here before. The two young children looked at Eduardo, their uncle. This isn't the deep woods. The deep woods are dark and scary, full of monsters, wild animals, and bears. Eduardo turned and looked back through the trees that they just walked through to the meadow beyond. And beyond the meadow was the creek. Do you think, he looked at them, do you think that it's the creek which is the boundary between our world and the magical, mysterious world of the deep woods and the forest? Their eyes grew really big. He loved his niece and his nephew. His niece, Sophia, looked at him and asked, "Have you ever seen any bears in the forest?" Eduardo didn't want to lie to them. "I think so." That wasn't good enough. When I leave home, and certainly when I leave home to go to the deep woods, I always travel with my friend and guide, Bear. Well, they were comfortable with that. And so Eduardo turned and they began to walk into the woods deeper. And it was Sophia who also told him that she thought that when they crossed the creek, that it was the boundary, that everything had changed. After a while, they came to a clearing in the woods. There was a beautiful perfume, a beautiful smell. "Lilies," the children said. But Eduardo said, "It smells like a lily." But in fact, it's a small plant. It has green, dark leaves and it grows close to the ground. It has a little flower, very, very beautiful blue. It's called the blue lantern. Difficult to find. You'll have to use your nose and your eyes. And so he watched as the children parted the tall grass and looked down the tall stems. He watched them fall head first in love and in wonder into the deep woods and all the wonders it had to offer them. They did find 3 blue lantern plants, but they found something else which they found far more exciting, a fairy road. Now you've probably seen these yourself. It's when the tall grass sort of grows up and falls over itself, it sort of forms a tunnel. Well, Eduardo suggested that maybe rabbits or quail had made the tunnel. Fairies. It's a fairy road. And at the end of it, there's a pot of gold, and we're going to find it. Jack, who was 4, was small enough, and he wriggled into this tunnel, and he was making good progress. Eduardo watched Sophia. She managed to get herself into the tunnel. But after a little while, she put her head down on the ground. She could feel the damp of the earth and the rocks. She could smell the plants, hear the wind in the trees. She could feel the beetle crawling very slowly over her hand. The children were tired when they were walking home. And so Eduardo entertained them with stories about how his twin brother, Tomas, who was their father, how as boys and teenagers, they'd spent every spare moment playing in the deep woods. They'd played there with their friends. They had explored it all. They had found secret hideouts. Their mother, Carolyn, was waiting anxiously for them to return. And when she saw them, she couldn't believe it. She didn't recognize the children at first. It seemed like they were light-filled and they were dancing. They just had this beautiful brightness about them, full of exuberance, a wildness. When the children raced towards her and at the door, she didn't let them speak. "Oh, my darlings, quickly go and wash your hands. It's almost time for dinner." She looked at Eduardo and she narrowed her eyes. "Where did you take them? And what did you do?" She loved her brother-in-law, but she found him exasperating at times, especially now when he just looked at her. "Good afternoon, Carolyn. I took them to the deep woods." "Never take them there without my permission. Never." After the children had washed their hands, they went to find their father. He was in his study, and he opened his arms and gave him a huge bear hug. And they told him all about their day. And it was at dinner that Tomas looked at Eduardo and said, "You know, we should take the children to the deep woods and show them all the places where we used to play. Carolyn, you must come too." But she declined. And later, Sophia talked quietly to Eduardo, thanked him for the wonderful day. "When we go back to the deep woods, you will bring your friend and guide, Bear, and I shall bring my angels." Eduardo smiled at her. "Sophia, that would be perfect. I'm looking forward to it. Blessings and abundance to you all."
Isn't that just the perfect way to end the evening? I knew when the kids and Eduardo crossed the creek, we were headed into that mythical, magical world of yours, Katie. And I'm going to think of Sophia putting her head down in the grass with the beetles and the sounds as I doze off tonight. Well, I really enjoyed the entire evening. And I just forget how important it is to see everybody and to be together. I'm really going to miss you until next month. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Has anybody else decided they would like to tell a story, or did I miss something in the chat? Okay, so thanks again to Katie and Meg for organizing this. And hopefully we will have a recording up on the Storytelling Association of California YouTube channel. And once we establish that, maybe Katie and Meg will send a link out for everybody so that you can look back on the stories and review some things that you wanted to. But in the meanwhile, I can't wait to see you all in March, and spring will have come into being. All these little signs will have bloomed and opened and become full signs of spring by then. And I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Brandon.
Brandon. Thanks, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.
Good seeing you.